Just a another piece for y'all. This video is alarming and disgusting. Caitlin is not your daughter. Didn't say she was. Leave us alone. Stop trying to find new ways to communicate with her, like posting her name. Stop obsessing over my children. You are sick and you need help. This is kind of the point of this whole thing, is to raise awareness for, you know, people who have been in a cult or the inability for.
So what do they say they survived? The very place you'd think they should have felt safest, their church.
You know, these are people who have. Well, it's not just a case of the cult, but it's also a really interesting, hopefully not tragic, but it's also a very sad case of I don't want to say like your fears can't you know, they can't become true, right? Like all of these from all right, so I guess with a little bit of all of these from you know, Katie wanting you know, Katie suddenly deciding hey, I'd love to see this. Where's it at? You know, everything from Katie saying, oh wait, I'd love to be a part of this, or what'd she say? I'd love to see that restraining order. There's a problem here, and it's, you are sick and you need help. Well, you know, I'm not the one who brought somebody's I'm sorry that Suzanne lost custody of me when she was 2, but you two are not, probably, maybe that's not the best enabler. Fear is real, and either you identify, okay, wait, this person is scared. This person is scared of something that doesn't exist. Stop obsessing over my children. Well, you know, this may suck for as things move forward, but in 2012, no one was going to abduct or kidnap the girls. So when Faith said that, and I said, okay, look, let's see if you can go to a women's shelter. No, I can't do that because then Jason and the people from the cult will come there and get them. I don't know how Florida works, but I don't think when somebody says, hey, why don't you go to a women's shelter, I don't think Florida has like a drive-through pickup window at the women's shelter. If that fear is real, then you should have gone to a women's shelter then. But that fear isn't real. That fear is from, you know, I don't know what. Something.
At this church on a cold Sunday evening 13 years ago, a girl was Tina Anderson.
I believed that it was my fault.
That girl was Tina Anderson. For years, she was silent about what happened in Baptist churches. There are thousands of IFB churches across the country.
You know, sometimes people are born into a cult and they can't control their... And this is where I kind of want to defend her, Faith Glosser, Conaway, whatever. It's kind of shocking to people, but yes, I will defend her as well as say, you know, she's not in a cult. And when you do things that you know, break your restraining order, when you do things that involve online death threats from, you know, people, when you try to instigate other people to call the police for you, you know, that's all public record. You're not in some little bubble of a cult, and your fear, it wasn't real in 2012. No one's obsessing over your children, and they're not going to be kidnapped or abducted. And then, did she forget that you can download your Facebook stuff? God, Faith. And then I said, Faith, can I get you and the girls maybe a plane ticket to Seattle to go back home and, you know, live with them? And she said, no, I can't do that either. My brother Jeremiah, I forgot what page that was on. No, I can't do that because my brother Jeremiah is he'll conspire with Jason to abduct Aubrey, Alexis, and Caitlin. That's when I said, okay, look, something's not right there. Would you like to make a clean break and come to Burleson? And, you know, part of that psyche eval is putting together all the different instances from, you know, not just from Pathway, but from every other grade, every other soccer mom, every other soccer dad, who, you know, has sent. It's a thing like, you're not in a bubble. Faith, you're not in like some cult of a bubble here. When somebody forwards a text message that says, "Hey Brad, why is she claiming that Alexis has been harassed 4 times at Pathway?" You know, I'm sorry, but that's what she does. You know, it's a matter of playing on other people's social kindness and goodness to instigate that fear. You know, that fear of that you know, stop obsessing over my children. I am sick and I need help. That's what the psychiatrist is for. And if you're not raised in a cult, in a bubble, and you've had and you've been taught that it's, you know, fight or flight to make sure that your fear is real. I mean, it's a matter of life and death for her. Somebody has to be obsessing over something. And it is a matter of, you know, it is a matter of her getting other people to instigate stuff with her. You either enable it, or you say, look, I need to have boundaries with you. If you don't want to come to therapy, you don't want the family to go to, you know, family counseling or anything like that at church, that's your call, but listen, I'm going to go ahead and go. Well, if you do that, or not if, when I did that, that triggers something in her head, and she says, oh my goodness, fight or flight, the sky is falling, henny penny, Adrian, Katie, Debbie, Shanda, I mean, it's all right there on the dash cam video. Please come help me, damsel in distress, princess locked in the castle. And the reality is, look, this video here was, this video here was made back in, let's see, that would have to be No Shave November, and back before the optometrist said you can put your contacts back in because the eyeball funk is gone. But so I've got all these up there, and of course some of these go over to the lawyer, and of course some of these are public, private, unlisted, and of course at some point it's really easy to just say, look, here's everything from 2011 when Stacy lied, and I understand people don't like pulling public record. It's easy to continually think, hey, guess what? This guy is bad, horrible, and under no circumstances would a woman lie, right? Because that just doesn't happen. However, the reality is that you see that guy right there with the, damn, look at that hair. Golly. Wow. It looks like a bowling ball. And anyways, there's no way that at any point in time is that guy gonna say, I mean, surely that looks just like me, doesn't it? Oh my gosh. By the way, that's my mom. That's the lady that did not lose custody of me when I was 2 years old. Faith, I'm not sure why you thought it would be, and this is the part about that whole socially rewired, the brain, the mind, it's there, and something's been crossed somewhere. Something has gone awry way back in there. Nobody is obsessed with your children. Nobody's going to abduct your children. Nobody's going to kidnap your children. You will find that when one guy says, if you're not willing to leave the cult fears and your old fears, then ma'am, I'm okay having boundaries. When that happened, the person that is diffusing those explosive moments, I'm now gone. Okay? Faith has a restraining order. Please stop enabling her. You're not helping me. But when Katie, Adrian, or Lieutenant Wilson, or the folks from Pathway decide, listen, we're not going to fact check anything. We're going to act first, think later, and they don't want to go back on that. Then not only is Faith digging herself into a hole, by violating her restraining order that I don't know why, but apparently somehow there's this alternate reality that exists between, certain little gossip people here in Burleson that, public record doesn't exist. There's no way to know that, law firms are dropping Faith for ethical reasons. Wait a minute. And it's all right there, Johnson County Court Public Records. Everything is right there from 2011, whenever Stacy lied and now Captain, then Detective McGuire investigated it. This is not Hollywood. This is not some political hoopla. When somebody says, "Woe is me, damsel in distress, henny penny," I expect... Not gonna cry. This little guy right here, okay, I expect people to show up when this lady right here needs the police to show up. What people don't like is when they find out that, hey, Katie, look, I'm sorry you're going to get a cease and desist. So is Adrian. So is Pathway. It's okay to have boundaries and not let somebody throw you under the bus. It's okay to listen, it's okay to realize, hey, look, some people lie. And everybody's got a different reason to lie, If people find out that Adrian Snell Lowe's Moss Argumentative, whatever her last name is this year, if people find out that she's not really a social advocate, look, there's going to be more retribution. I fully expect more death threats. Hopefully the house doesn't get burned down. Hopefully I don't get shot. But Adrian's got a few $1 million riding on. I hope that nobody finds out that, I call the police, lie to the church, lie to the police about the church. Sorry, but that's public record now. You did it. It's right there, and everybody can watch it and see it. From lawyers to investigative reporters to Soccer Mom blog, and everybody in the community. Under no circumstances is Katie Reams gonna say, look, I thoroughly enjoy lying to Pathways leadership. That's not going to work out well for her social capital, if that's what you want to call it. And under no circumstances is it ever okay, and it won't be okay, for me to ever say, hey, look, it's totally okay for somebody to take advantage of and take away from people who need it. This little bowling ball looking head of a guy, that lady was twice the woman that you will probably never get to be. Okay? And it really doesn't bother me to say that. Because not only did she parent this little ball of hair right here, but Jan Griffin was a pillar of this community. I don't know why you would bring Suzanne Truax into Pathway and say, oh, this is Brad's mom. You know, this part right here, I'm sorry, nobody's obsessing over your children, okay? You are sick and you need help. Look, folks, I get that it's not the most funnest topic in the world, but sometimes people lie. Sometimes those people are not a male. You know, let's just take, I don't want to say let's take the gender out of all of this, but sometimes people lie and those people don't have a penis. I said that. It's okay to realize that, look, yes, Faith, every time you decide to say, you know, dear, you know, Kevin, dear Patrick, you know, henny penny, woe is me, the sky is falling, Alexis is going to be abducted and kidnapped. Okay, but that's going to come back around to bite you, especially after you've already had a restraining order issued against you. Even if Katie and her infinite world that she lives in says, I'd like to see that restraining order that you got. It's right there, but it's now public record. I'm sorry if that doesn't fit your mind's cognition. I don't know how else to say that. What I think is interesting about that is that, you know, somewhere in there, at no point does Katie ever want to say, look, public record is okay to look at. So are the dash cam videos. And that exists. She's a licensed realtor, for Pete's sake. What does she do whenever you go put in the lot and block number on a contract to buy, or when Katie takes a new listing, where does that information come from? You know, lot 4, block 12 of the Hidden Creek Estates. Does she think that stuff like comes from like Disneyland, and there's somebody with a magical wand that says bibbity bobbity boo, there's you a lot and block number, Katie, that's what goes on the realtor form, that's how you buy and sell? No, it's public record, it's right there. I mean, and especially with Katie and Adrian, it's really, I don't want to say folks are kind of, you know, showing me where to look, but it is kind of getting old. Because not only is it just, hey, there's not some reality, this fear-based, you know, let's take advantage of people and throw the church under the bus and bother the police when we're just really insulted and pissed off that our first lie didn't get validated. That stuff starts to cycle and it gets old. You know, if you're in the same town and you're in the same church as somebody from, I don't know, before Joanne Lynch was the secretary, it's difficult for people to sit there and listen to. It's not difficult, it's really sad. When people hear, you know, Katie Reams and Adrian Moss Snell Lowe's argument is whatever her last name is this year. Whenever they hear them say, oh, I want you to know he's married to his other wife. Which one? His first common law married wife. He's married, and you're just sitting there going, Brad, what are they doing? They're just repeating the lie from Faith. And especially those two in particular, you would think that, okay, wait a minute, you guys were in the same town at the same church with Stacy. Does polygamy now exist? I mean, is that somehow now a thing? I'm married to somebody. I don't know who. I'm hoping it's J-Lo. I'm sorry, but it's either got to be. I'm hoping it's J-Lo or Mariah Carey. I'm not sure which. But to have people like that are in the same town at the same church since the prior relationship, and it doesn't. They just don't have a problem. There's no moral or social conviction within them in and of themselves without a cease and desist letter, restraining order, something like that says, hold on, before I say or try to entice to the police that were called out, he's married. Maybe we should think about what we're saying to them. Because, these guys are wearing cameras. They're wearing microphones. That's kind of difficult. And it's not a matter of, Brad, you're sick and you need help. Well, no. The person that's sick and needs help, it might not be who you think it is. Because if you're waiting for this guy right here to ever say, look, filing a false report is okay, if you're ever hoping that guy right there is going to say, look, Faith, just because you're pissed off, that doesn't make it okay for you to steal and take away from every other one. It doesn't make it okay for you to take away from every other woman who has actually been a victim. Listen, I fully believe that Faith was a victim, but she's not anymore. I can't make somebody's lie come true. And nobody can. Fear, he is a liar, and his name's not Brad. I'm sorry, Katie, if you don't realize that Faith has a restraining order, it's right there, along with the fact that the lawyers have not chosen to continue to represent her. It's okay to not enable. You're not doing somebody any favors when you just go to this alternate reality and say, listen, I want you to know that Brad's been kicked out of 3 other churches. He's married. He eats kitty cat brains with mayonnaise. What rumor is next on the agenda, girls? Can you just go ahead and tell everybody? When stuff like that, I think the rough one that I'm not sure Pathway really understands yet is that as this mess unfolds, and I'm tired of being silent, it's going to unfold. They're not really doing anyone any favors, including themselves, by saying, okay, you know what, let me empower you some more. Let's feed this lie and let's feed this fear without checking any of it. Let's feed this some more. Because now you've got Faith running around town saying, oh yes, it's horrible. It's happened 4 times. Well, I'm sorry. For the record, Suzanne is not my mother. Your children are not. Glasses. Oh. your children are not being your children are not being terrorized at Pathway. But it's okay to go to Facebook and say that, right, guys? Heaven forbid you have any boundaries and say, ma'am, I need you to stop, please. Be it Katie, Faith, or Adrian, either one. Because what happens when you don't have any kind of boundaries at all, regardless of gender, is that then she goes and starts telling people, well, yeah, it's happened 4 times. It's very scared. It's very scary. It's so scary that this dude, is driving on the golf cart, welcoming people to Pathway. But in her world, in Miss Conaway's world, there's not anything that registers there that says, look, I'm sorry, but nobody was terrorized at Pathway on December 24th at the Christmas Eve services. I'm sure that will get deleted here soon as well. Or I don't know, she'll leave it up and say, I don't lie or something. I don't know. But when you're working at a church or something like that, when, be it a cop who's volunteering to run the safety squad, or Patrick or Kevin or anybody else, when you can't put your hero complex, when you can't put your hero complex aside for a second and say, wait a minute, that's not Brad's mother. Wait a minute. Old boy has GPS on his phone and he's sharing his location with every BPD email that he could find. Brad's also sharing his real-time location with other people at Pathway. When the church goes on to enable that, then, it makes it worse. And that's the problem with Shane, saying, oh, Katie, here's this video of you, it's now public record. And he decided to, go on and do that. The second that Shane decided to go ahead and forward that over to Katie, well, there's the problem, is that every bit of that is, every bit of that is now getting more, forget about the people that have already seen it. It's now getting more traction. You're going to trigger her to do something else stupid. And I'm just saying, it is, let's call it what it is. It is fear. It is real to her. It doesn't exist, Katie, Adrian. It doesn't exist in the real world. Nobody at Pathway is going to let any kid be abducted, kidnapped, or terrorized in the lobby 4 times. It's okay to have boundaries, folks. It's not okay to not have boundaries and just welcome all of that, legal liability, social liability. You're taking away from everybody else in the church. You're continually going down that pathway of deception if you don't say, wait a minute, at some point we got to stop this, because either one of 2 things is happening here. Either I put this up here to see how much the stalking is, because the rest of these are over on my channel, right? And just like on most of the things, but it's the first screen there It's the first screen there when you go to upload, upload one. It says, public or private or whatever. You just click private. That way you can forward it to the investigators, law offices, and stuff like that. But it's sad that people don't understand. Look, you can continually enabling this fear. You're throwing fuel on the fire. There's one side of this that is, that is sick and needs help. And if it's not me, then leave us alone. Sorry, nobody is nobody brought somebody else's adult who lost their custody battle when I was 2. What triggers crap like that? Just March 11th? Let's roll up into Pathway and say, this is Brad's mom. So everybody in Pathway that knows this lady right here, they're supposed to believe Faith, right? Well, yeah, you just keep repeating the lie until somebody there does. Unfortunately, I'm sorry, I can't unmake her. I can't unmake her my mother. Suzanne lost custody when I was 2, and then, when I was 12, we adopted Heather. But worse than that is, okay, after the restraining order is issued, Faith, what is it that is continually obsessed? Is it paranoid delusions, or is it, something? What is it that's still in there, in that mind? Okay, you didn't want to get help when you got here. You don't want to get help in 2013, 14, 15, 2016. Let's start documenting this abuse. Because it's not good for the girls, it's not good for me. I'm going to remove myself from the situation. And then it gets worse. Well, yeah, there's nobody there to say, okay, look, what do you do for when somebody's having a PTSD panic attack? How do you dissolve that? Well, that person, is now gone from your life. Every time you say, I don't know, that's the thing that's still like baffling people, is what in the world made her. It's just, is it random? Is it what was what triggers it? That was the initial thing that I went and talked to Josh about, was how do I find out what is triggering these episodes? And the fact that they get, I think after the, just initial, I don't want, you want to say honeymoon phase or whatever. After the initial, hey, let's move to Burleson, let's get a clean start, okay. And then these fears, these delusional panic attack, raging, violent, explosive episodes, continue to happen. What triggers them? What brings them on? What's another way to dissolve them other than make sure there's no sharp objects, make sure that the girls aren't really around to see it, try to, put something in the person's hand, give the person something to smell, make a loud noise, and hope that they realize, whatever's inside your mind is not what's happening in reality. So the guy that's been trying to dissolve all that, okay, I'm now gone. And yes, Faith still has that restraining order against her. I think it's going to be upgraded now from that one to a permanent 2-year restraining order now. because people like Katie just refuse to, I don't know why, but just refuse to say, look, Katie, I'm sorry, you're taking away from the real victims of domestic and family violence. Every time you feed into her fear that, stop obsessing over my children. Well, if the town wasn't so small and great-grandma or great-grandparents, grandparents, Glenn and Jan, and then me, there's some deep roots here. And when somebody says, hey, Brad, why does Alexis want to move out? Hey, Brad, school's starting and Faith is now getting back into that cycle. She's got a new audience, but she's now back into that cycle of, listen, I want y'all to know that somebody is going to obsess over my children and they're going to kidnap and abduct them, and then this is what happened, and then it's happened 4 times at church, and blah, blah, It's not that I want to be rude and say blah, 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 but honey, you cannot keep doing this. I don't want to be dead. Let's just make that clear. Consequently, as a result, furthermore, in conclusion, you can't keep breaking your restraining order and think that it's completely and totally fine. It doesn't matter if you get Katie or Adrian to bite off your lie. You can't keep breaking that restraining order. If you don't want to go get help, fine. No, really, it's not quite fine, but if you don't want to go get help, that's your choice. I can't sit here and continually allow, stay silent, whatever phrase you want to use. I can't continually sit here and say, you know what? It's totally fine for me to leave the house knowing that somebody wants to burn the house down. It's totally fine for me to, go to the library, go to the park, get out of this now empty house. I shouldn't have to worry about who are you going to instigate next. What are you going to go tell Lieutenant Wilson that's going to get him in trouble next? Some people are going to let their white knight syndrome get a bit excited, and when they do that, they're not going to say, gosh, I wonder if this lady is a pathological liar who cannot tell the difference between disassociation with reality and a fear. Or, is this a lady that's been born into a culture where they say men are misogynistic pigs? Because they are in that church, in those churches, in those cults. What was the the men are allowed to take this elevator, the women are to take this staircase, and you don't commingle. And Faith does have still, I think, a very real fear that if people find out that she is lying, and as people, hear that claim of, hey, this is Brad's mom, what? And they hear Faith say, I want y'all to know he's married, and I just, all of it. And those who are not in La La Land realize, crap, the church just enabled her to violate her restraining order even more. As people start to see that, you have to understand this is a very emotionally unstable person. At any second, what's going to trigger her to say, hey, let's walk into church and say that Brad's harassing us, and this is his mother, and he's harassing both of us, and ma'am, his butt's been out there on the golf cart since 8:30 this morning. Yo butt and Aubrey and Suzanne just walked into church. Nobody really wants to hear that, and nobody really wants to believe that at first, because some of these gentlemen tend to act first, think later, and realize, oh shit, we just backed ourselves into a corner. Nobody really wants to, or nobody really wants to consider how to really unravel that situation other than, hey, look, guys, I'm tired of the death threats, and I'm tired of, I can't live under somebody else's lie, so I'm going to have to tell the truth. And I do think it needs to be continually made, done on a very public level, to see how much, how much of this. So this was done a day ago, and Shane, it was either one of the four. Shane, Alan, or Rick, let's be honest here. One of these individuals forwarded this over to Katie. Is he a ninja cop? Is he a ninja cop? What is the hell? Oh, Google. Who uses Google Plus? Is this guy like a ninja cop Viking or something? What is? I don't know what that is. But, okay, whatever. So that was 4 days ago. Next thing you know, Katie starts, railing on her private blocked, what is it? I forgot. Phone starts dinging, Phone starts dinging out the wazoo, and next thing I know, it's Katie on there just, well, you know what I heard she said, they said, he said, I'd love for you to show me this restraining order. Okay, well, there it is. That's the petitioner and the recipient. Oh, that's where she had her lawyer dropped her. Where's also, you forgot to mention in your video that the Burleson Police Department asked you about a warrant for your, had a traffic ticket, paid it online like 4 hours after y'all left. That was also, I'd love to see the said restraining order you claim to have. Okay, public record didn't just appear. Is there? And the angel of the Lord appeared to Katie and said, you can now look at public record. Just like you do whenever you fill out, realtor forms. You're repeating that lie is not helping Faith. Mr. Ninja Cop, when you decide to forward this to Katie, let's make sure that we're very clear and very, very public with this, so that stuff that's done in private, stuff that's done in the shadows, you shine the light and then things get illuminated. I think there may be something in that whole Bible thing about that. But let's not do this, coercing other people and instigating other people. Let's just do this publicly on the record cease and desist. You have 30 days to respond. Of course, that's going to be probably thrown away, at which point it needs to go to, back to the legal system, unfortunately. And I do still think that it's coulda, woulda, shoulda been prevented, especially from, the cop. And then, of course, it goes over to Katie, and then, next thing you know, it goes over to Faith. That's kind of the cycle, and that's where, that buffer of somebody who does take the time to understand, the independent fundamentalist Baptist. What is this cult you're coming from? What do they believe? You were born in it. You lived there for 35 years. This isn't like acute abuse. This is social regurgitated brainwashing for 3.5 decades. Please understand that 3.5 decades of chronic trauma does not leave somebody with normal cognition. Yes, Faith thinks that somebody, for the 6th year that I know of, and don't worry, Faith, I'm not going to publish, it'll be entered as evidence, but, nobody's going to publish your Facebook chat. But yeah, folks, since, 2012, there is continually this fear that says, something's going to happen to me, something's going to happen to the girls, this other, Brad, what was it? Her first husband needs to die. Sorry. According to her, and where the heck did that one go? I don't know, but that one's, again, this stuff needs to be public. Not all of it, obviously. Well, assuming it's not going to be handled. Sometimes people get themselves. Sometimes a church and a community can. Not the whole community. Some people have character. But you can get yourself so far in a hole that you can't get out of it really unless you just tell the truth. But this is again, I'm going to kind of defend her a bit. This person is not. How do you say? They're not going to tell you. A, they're not going to tell you the truth. B, their truth is what all of us. I can't really. I can't badmouth her because I know that. I know the bigger picture here. But under no circumstances is she ever going to come out and say, "Hey, look, I was born and raised in a cult. I can't tell the difference between reality and a delusional, chronically abused lie. I have a restraining order. Please help me not go to jail because I have 3 little girls." She's not going to come out and say stuff like, "Yeah, I prayed that Jason would die." That's one of them. But all of those from 2012 and, each and every time that, there was, she was balled up in a fetal position, screaming, Girls, your daddy doesn't love you. Your daddy hates you. You girls all drive him crazy. He hates you. All of you drive him nuts. Well, yeah, you just get a journal. You write it down. Hey, look, here's what happened. And I don't know how to dissolve these, what do you call them? Episodes? Incidents? But they're not real. Stop trying to find new ways to communicate with her, like posting her name. No, I'm sorry. Caitlin, Aubrey, and Alexis. Caitlin Conaway, Aubrey Conaway, Alexis Conaway are all children from Faith Conaway. Let's make sure we're very clear on that. They shouldn't have to live in her fear. As it's, what's today, August, as school starts, the whole, hey, I have a new audience thing, it comes back up and it circles back around, especially when you've got deep roots. The girls are not going to live in fear, to Aubrey Conaway's teacher, Alexis Conaway's teacher, Caitlin Conaway's teacher, principal, vice principal, band teacher, everything else. Those girls shouldn't have to live in fear at school. Those fears that Faith is having, they didn't exist in 2012. Was that just one, or was that... Oh yeah, the rest of them were... So, her fears didn't exist in 2000... her fears exist. Her fears existed in 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017. Her fears aren't real. Aubrey Conaway, Alexis Conaway, Caitlin Conaway, those three girls should not have to live in fear at school. Thank goodness. They probably don't have to live in fear at school. Furthermore, in addition to, they shouldn't have to live in fear at church either. But sometimes people paint themselves into a corner and they can't get out of it. So all they can figure out how to do is to make up some bigger horseshit. I'm sorry. That's what they did, and it's a preventable suck. It sucks that happened. But you can't make her fears come true. You can have boundaries like I did. You can take out a restraining order and she'll, piss on it for all I know. But you don't have to enable somebody's fears. It's okay to check. It's okay to ask better questions. It's okay to listen. And it's okay to... It's really okay to get to know, the real Faith, and what's happened. Is at any point, is she ever going to say, hey, look, this is what, I'm so not telling all of this. But listen, at no point is Faith ever going to say to you, this is what happened when, this is what happened to me when I was 15 and 16 years old. This is what the pastor of our church did. She's not going to say that. Okay, picture. I guess if it helps to picture a loop. Somebody stuck in a cycle. At no point is she ever going to tell you the truth until she realizes that, maybe there needs to be an intervention. Maybe somebody is going to have to say, look, ma'am, we're going to have to mandate, hopefully not legally, but we're going to have to mandate that, these things happen, because at no point is, you're not going to be dragged in front of the church. And
She actually asked you if you enjoyed.
Nobody is going to... Does everybody remember that whole Scarlet Letter thing? Some people think it still exists. And those people are,
Having sex with Mr. Willis?
Yes. I was in complete shock, and I think I was just blown away that would even cross her mind.
Linda Phelps denies saying that, but according to Tina, Pastor Phelps tells her to write a statement asking church members to forgive her transgression.
And I cannot stress enough how important it is to really watch those videos and, fully understand all of what she's been through, to understand that, hey, look, Miss Faith Conaway, I can either say, I want to help you, and I want to help you overcome your fears, because they don't exist. Or you can feed it, and it's going to get worse. And can I say, I don't want to say consequences. The natural, legal, social result of her continually getting those fears enabled and even exciting other people to act on her fears, and then having to deal with the aftermath of, oh crap, that fear was a lie. That's not okay to just simply lie to people just because you're scared. It's okay to really understand, look, maybe some of these lies that you're repeating aren't true. They are, what's the Dr. Phil say, it is her reality. But that doesn't mean that, you have to empower it. Katie's reality is, no, there's not a restraining order. Well, everybody else's reality is, it's right there on public record, Some people have a reality of, oh, he's married. That's also public record, just so we're clear. Miss Conaway, I'm sorry, nobody's obsessing over your children. I'm not sick, but you need to know that this guy right here will never be okay with somebody lying about the most sensitive thing in the world, and it will never be okay to lie about domestic issues, or lie to the church and the police, and or instigate friends to do it. It's not okay if you have a badge. It's not okay if you have a Bible. It's not okay if you have a Facebook. It's still not okay. I do hope that moving forward over the next couple of weeks, that somehow people could understand, to have grace, have mercy, have absolute and actual clarity of thought, and not get, their hero complex excited. And I do hope that somehow there can be actual help outside of the natural consequences that happen when people break restraining orders and incite fear and lie. It's not okay. And I do hope that everybody gets the courage, chooses courage to have boundaries and not lie. I'm sorry you think somebody's obsessing over your kids. No one can make your lies come true, Faith.